Okay.
Says the says the Mishnah on Yud Beis on the base. We're learning Lilo Nishmas Chava Bas Mordechai Aryeh. That's the mother of Sarah Greenfield, Benji's mother-in-law that he was extremely close to. Right?
I can see second. Where's the food?
Next year.
Atlantic Beach.
Tomorrow morning.
Okay. Yesh Yeshba Avodah Kechavim. They have a city that has an Avodah Zorah in it. In other words, it's a place where you got to be worried if you're going to go into that to be chayshit for Avodah Zorah. They have stores that are adorned. We'll see exactly what they're adorned with. But what the concern is that they're adorned, they're going to go ahead and these stores are going to give money to the kohen, to the priest. That in other words, they take a piece of the action. They take a piece of the action. So if you're spending money there, it's going to go towards Avodah Zarah. And then you have stores that are not mutaris. They're not adorned. And those that are adorned are also to go ahead and do business with pashtus. And those that are mutaris would be permitted. Says Rashi. Ir sheyesh ba avodas kechavim, v'derech hayvet kechavim lios lem yoim shuk, v'yirid b'yoim edom. There was a day of shuk and a fair on the day of the Eid. So they had this holiday, and on that holiday in particular, they're going to go ahead and have a marketplace. V'hoyiba chanuyos mutaros, v'simin hulahem. The fact that the mutar is a simin she'oisa chanuyos shalevdis kechavim heim. These are the chanuyos of the kechavim. Litel mehem meches, to take what? A piece of the action. They're going to take a tax. So they're going to get a slice of the action. And therefore, mutaris asurais, mefarish b'gemara, she'em mutaris. And those that are not be permitted. Why? The ba'oislan she'em mutaris le'shakli minayu michsel avodas kechavim. They're not going to take a tax to Avodah Zarah. Le'matyu avodas kechavim hanam minayu. And Avodah Zarah, I'm not going to have enough from the Jew. Now, there's a big kasha, guys. We began the perek. What was the first thing? 3 days before, right? A machloikis, what, 3 days, whether included, not included. What about the day itself? So what's the Shana Mishnah? What do we care? Mutaris, not mutaris. L'chayra, you can't do business b'yom edom. It's a bomb kasha. If it's the day of their chag, what do you mean mutaris, not mutaris? Freg Rashi. Says Rashi, v'imi shum de noisa v'noisin b'yom edom. And if you're telling me you're going to do business on their day, right? Hani mili l'zvune l'hu. That is what? L'zvune l'hu. That means to go ahead and sell to them. Right. Dilma mazrele behema. Perhaps you'll sell to them an animal. And they'll go ahead and take that animal and bring it to Avodah Zarah. And inami derech lekeach liyos sameach, or else it's the derech of the person who buys something to be happy. V'azo umayda. So in other words, or else a person buys something, they're happy with the purchase, and they'll thank the Avodah Zarah. So either Rashi brings in the two pshatim, either lifnei evil site michshol pshat of providing an animal for Avodah Zarah, or what, or providing a reason to be moida to the Avodah Zarah, and that'll be over alpicha. Avol masvei minayu, to buy from him dava hamiskayim, something that what will last, guys. Something that won't last, he's happy to sell to you because he's getting rid of it. But something that will last, he's azav shari. The stam moicha atzavhu. So now, apparently, if you go back to the first Rashi in the Masechta, and again, it's mashma. Any masu mata is asar. Rashi didn't make a distinction between what buying and selling. Rashi's going here today and making a distinction. Well, that means to go ahead and sell, but to buy, that would be permitted. So that is shvelach. Let's see Tosfos. Guys, you had a kasha. Again, this Mishnah would seem to be a saisa, the first Mishnah, being undermining the whole din. Says Rashi, this. Ear, sheyesh ba avodas kechavim, perish hakuntris, regilas hu liyois lehem shoik v'yerid b'yom edom, u'she'enu mutarais, hainu taima de mutarais, mishum tloi mati minayu hanola avodas kechavim. That's the kasha of the hour. That means to go ahead and the zvune needs to go ahead and sell. Imishum takruvos, either because of takruvos, imishum derech lekeach, or what, because it's the derech of the lekeach to be happy. Okay. Umoida. Aval lemas v'minayu, to go ahead and buy from them, shari, the stamoicha otzev. Okay, Taisus brings in Rashi's pshat. Says Taisus, Hacha mashma shechoyze b'Rashi mimashahoyim mefarish lael the lases v'lases hainu mekel chumemka. Mekel chumemka means to buy and sell. So apparently Rashi here is having charata from what he said earlier. Umiu kasha. I got a problem. Ibiyom eidai. If it's speaking the day of the Eid, Mairi sheiyu ashuk biyom Eid. In other words, there's a fear. Heich leichem mehem. How could you buy anything from them? Ha'amrina lael. The ain loichim mehem dava sheinu miskayim, right? You can't go ahead and buy from them anything that'll be miskayim. In other words, why? Because they'll go be right happy. The ilu b'gemara dahacha. So Rashi could taka answered the question. According to Rashi, it's speaking only things that are mikayim. In other words, you have to say Rashi that has to be moicher like something that ilu b'gemara dahacha. I mean on the we're going to see on the Amid base today, guys. I mean, in the Rav Yirmiyah Zovin Chad Pita, V'Allah. Guys, Rav Yirmiyah bought a pita. A pita is not something that's Darvish Meskayim, and he bought it. But how could he buy it? In other words, if it's speaking the day of the affair, how could you buy a pita from the guy? You can't. You can't. Okay, therefore, we have a problem. To say that it's speaking the day of the Eid and you're buying something is problematic. Why? Because if it's something that's in miskayim, it's not gonna. You can't buy it. L'kach Bishra ben Rameya, the hachamari be yirid shoysel laniach by meches ushaloi b'yomeidam. It's not speaking the day of their Eid, guys. In other words, this is not a din of the. This is not our Mishnah. Our first Mishnah was speaking about what? A chag. Here is not speaking about a chag. There is no chag. There is no chag. It's speaking about stam affair. So now, if you have a fair and you know there's a house, a store, and the store what is mutar, you know a cut of the action is going to the Avodah Zorah. And if it's not mutar, a cut is not going, and therefore you can go and do anything. So according to Rashi, it's speaking the day of the Eid. According to Reb Meir, Baal Taisvis is not speaking the day of the Eid. Okay, those are two drachim. These are two drachim in how to answer that question. The Meiri says it's speaking that it's chutz la'ir that serves Avodah Zarah. It's speaking about a place. In other words, the city they serve Avodah Zarah. You have a place outside the city, and in those outside the city, there's one that's mutar and one that's not. So usually you can buy from the one that right, but since it's mutar, you can't buy. Yes, Harold.
You say so distinction point to one.
It's an Avodah Zarah, right? It has nothing to do with the Eid, right? Nothing to do with the day of the Eid. Nothing to do with the day of the Eid. Okay, it's good. So in other words, again, it's a seminal question. It really is. On the surface, we opened. Listen up, Rabbi Avi. I'll tell you Kasha. We opened up the Masechta. We opened up this today. We see a Mishnah. The Mishnah says, well, if the city has Avodah Zarah in it, if there's a store that's mutar for the Avodah Zarah, can't buy because they're going to give a piece of the action to the Avodah Zarah. The other one you could. Frag the Velt. Every single Rishon, the same question. The first Mishnah says on the day of the you can't buy anything, and Rashi's saying it's the day of the Eid, and Rashi's saying it's the day of the Eid. You know, so okay. So Rashi answers that I said the day of the Eid is what? is only when something that you're speaking about you're selling to them that they're going to be happy. But buying them something that will go ahead and last, if they're going to be upset to sell that. So it's speaking about the day of the Eid and buying, and that's the pshat over here. That's the pshat over here. Okay, if it's mutaros, you could buy. You can't. If it's not mutaros, you could. Okay, that's Rashi. Taisva says no. It's not even speaking the day of the Eid. It's speaking what the date. Mermeya says it's speaking stam. It's an Avodah Zorah. If it's a store that serves Avodah Zorah, you can't buy because they're going to go ahead and give a piece of the action. If it's not, okay, that would be pshat. Okay, you guys good? Okay, now the next piece of Gemara is interesting. We have machloikis between Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish is of the opinion that you can give hana to the Avodah Zarah. In other words, you can't have enough from the Avodah Zarah, but you would be able to go mahana. You were able to go give hana to the Avodah Zarah. To give to the Avodah Zarah, you could. But so now, if that's the case, guys, if you're able to give to the Avodah Zarah, if you go into a store, right? What difference would it make if it's adorned or not adorned? If I'm going ahead and giving hana to Avodah Zarah, it should make a difference. Guys, you hear? Again, according to Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish, you could give hana to Avodah Zarah. Then why in our Mishnah says if it's mutar you can't? Why would it be usher? I'm going to the store and I'm buying something, right? I'm giving a note to the Avodah Zarah. So what? I could do it, right? I could do it. So why? What's the difference if it's mutar or not mutar? That's the question. Amr Shimon Lakish, Loi Shanu, we didn't learn that you can that mutar is usher. It's adorned between some type of rose or some type of myrtle. In other words, in the service of the Avodah Zarah, guys, they would use fragrant flowers or fragrant spices. So they would use mu'taris guys. They would adorn. They would wear perhaps a wreath of what of the smell, right? That smelled really good. So now, Reb Shimon ben Lakish has to hold that me'utaris has to be discussing an external type of object rather than buying something, because he holds you're going ahead, you're able to give hanah to the Avodah Zarah. So since you can give hanah to the Zarah, what's the difference between a store that's me'utar and not me'utar? So therefore, he says you have this vered vadas, which was takruas Avodah Zarah. And that's a siman that a piece of the action is going to go to the Avodah Zarah. And it's mashma, you mishaname reicha, from the smell. Av mutaris beperis. If it's mutar with peris, that you're not going to physically have enough from them, mutar, it's permitted. My timer, damakra, lo yidbach mechom me'uma min acherim, nenahu da'aser. It's also for you to have anah. Av mahana, but to give the Avodah Zarah anah, shari, it's permitted. Okay. Again, did they use it for takruvas Avodah Zarah? Shilas, did they use it for Avodah Zarah or not? In other words, it's not the fragrance that's asa. It's the fact that since it has a fragrance, they use it for Avodah Zarah. In other words, a fruit is not Avodah Zarah. Again, they use these mutars as a crown. They would make like like wreaths around their head. Like the Caesars, right? They have that stuff on their head. That's the thing. People usually don't walk around with an apple on their head. Robin Hood. William Teller. That's always William Teller. That's one. Avol Paris, Rashi says mutarim likach mehen. You could buy. The afagav the mata hanola by this kechavim. Even though by the Zorah they're going to get hanola, ma'anav svina with the sale. Less than bucket in mefarish, but mahana muta. Rabbi Yochanan Amar afilu muteris beferis nami asa kal v'chaymer. Neno asa to have hana from them is asa mahana like kol shekain. Then certainly to go ahead and give them hana. Certainly give them hana. So we have machlokes. Mahana, can you go ahead and give hana to the Avodah Zarah? Says Reb Shimon ben Lakish you could. Says Reb Yochanan you can't. Now, what about fragrance? Is a very interesting thing. I thought we'd spend a little, very short period of time. What's the issue of fragrance? You're having enough from fragrance. That's it's just it's interesting. It's interesting hana, right? Not eating, it's not drinking, it's fragrance. So if you look at Taisvis, on the Amid base, El bevered ve'adas the komeshani merecha, picture Rabbeinu Tam. Maishna mi bastihi. That's bastihi is a stopper of a barrel. The aminu lekamam perik beis. The shari, right? You're able to smell the stopper to see if the fragrant odor of the wine. Mishum dereich alav milsahi. So in other words, you see you have a barrel of stam yainam or avodah zarah, and you're able to smell the stopper. Why? L'chayra, it should be aser. If reicha milsahi. So what's the difference between vered and hadas? What's the difference between vered and hadas and what and the wine? V'tiritz, the shiny vered v'hadas, the ikrayu l'reicha kaimi. The purpose of a vered of a rose and hadas is for the fragrance. That's their ikka. The purpose of the wine is to drink. You don't buy wine to smell it; you buy it to drink it. But you buy a rose and you buy hadasim for the purpose of smelling them. V'habi k'may ketayres, and therefore reicha and hadas are like ketayres. The afla acha shenasa mitzvasa, even after you did the mitzvah of ketayres, nehi shein ma'ilamba isura mia ikka. There's still what? It's still miyasa. Okay, so in other words, you see, ketayres is made for the purpose of smelling it, and even after, in other words, there's no meila once you burn it, but still it's asa to smell it. Why? Because since it's hegdish, and it's this and issa. So what do you see? So he's making a chilik between stamazai, smelling something doesn't give it a halacha that it's asa to smell, right? It's only asa to smell if it's made for the purpose of smelling. Yeah. What? The wine is not made for ziluf. Ziluf is, you do ziluf, but that's from funokim. So it's not funokim that do ziluf, but it's not a special wine that's made for ziluf. And the thing about giving a present to a guy, I didn't see it. You can give a present to a guy. Yes.
Spared the hadas here. Basically for the.
Well, you smell. I mean, well, again, yeah, for sure, yeah.
Smell of food is good. It's part of the. No.
Yeah, but is the smell of food? Do you buy food for the smell? Or do you buy to eat it? Again. It doesn't. That's it. That's all. It's true that it has a good smell, but once the ikr is not for the smell, reichalav milsahi. However, if the ikr is for the smell, then it's something. It makes a lot of sense. Again, Mendy, don't look at the quality of the smell. It could smell like an Aden, but if it's a fruit that you eat, it doesn't make a difference. I'll give you an example. The Essex smell good? Yeah? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, beautiful, right? But you don't buy an Essex for the smell, but it smells gavaldic, right? Again, it's an Essex. Again, but it's not the. Okay, so now we have this machloikis. Mahana avoid from the giving a note to avoid Zorah. Again, now you understand why Rish Lakish had to say, guys, why was it asa? Guys, did you hear this nuance? Rish Lakish, I had problems with Rish Lakish. Guys, look at me, please. You go in, you start a Mishnah. What does the Mishnah say? Says the Mishnah, well, you can't do business in a store that is adorned, but you could do business in a store that's not adorned. Laishanu, smell. That didn't make any sense to me. Elama, since Reish Lakish holds that you're able to give hana to the avodah zarah, Memele had to come up with a reason why by mutarais, why would it be usher? Why would it be usher and you go mutarais? If I can go ahead and have enough, give enough to avodah zarah, so what? I'm going to the store, I'm going to buy something, I'm going to sell something. I'll sell something to him, right? So good. Nothing wrong with that. So therefore Reish Lakish had to say no. It's speaking about what you're going to have enough in the avodah zarah itself. That's the chiddush of Reish Lakish, guys. Anyway, Meisver Reb Nasan Omer Yom Shabbat Kachavim Menachas Bayas Hameches. The day that they put on the what on the meches, the collection for the Zorah. Machrizim v'Omer Kol Mishin Noitel Torah v'Yaniach B'Roishay. Anyone who takes this Torah, this wreath, and puts it on his head, u'B'Roish Chamoray, and the head of his donkey, l'Kavod Bayas Kachavim Yaniach Le'es Hameches. You don't have to give the meches. If you're not willing to wear this wreath and not putting on your donkey's head, you're going to have to give the meches. A Jew who stuck on the day of this announcement, what should he do? Yaniach, to go ahead and put it on. Nimsa Nena, he's going to smell from the avodah zarah. He can't put it on his head. Lo Yaniach, not to put it on his head. Nimsa Mahana, he's going to go ahead by paying the meches. He's going to give anot to the avodah zarah. That's your kasha, guys. Guys, we're going to continue on. But right there's your kasha. In other words, the Jew is stuck between a rock and a hard place. To go ahead and wear it on his head, he can't because he's having enough from the Avodah Zarah. Not to put it on, he's going to have to pay the mechas. He pays the mechas, he's giving hanat to the Avodah Zarah. But like Reish Lakish, what's the problem? Like Reish Lakish, what's the problem? Giving them. It doesn't make a difference. No, you're giving money. Money's going to the Avodah Zarah. You can't do it. And again, this is not having enough from the money. You're giving money to Avodah Zarah. You're not having enough from it. You're giving it. You're giving it. So says the Gemara, Ma yaseh yeniach nena lo yeniach nimsamana. Mikan amru hanoisa b'noisim b'shuk shel avodas kechavim. If a person does business in the shuk of avodas kechavim, which he shouldn't do, if he buys something, behema that he buys, to akar as kanas, you're going to go ahead and slit the tendon. Peiros ksus v'kelim yirkavu, let them rot. Mois v'kli matachos, if you have coins and metal kelim, yalichem li'am melech. And again, we didn't ask you know the kasha already, guys. For Eze Iker, what exactly is Iker? We constantly the guy to go ahead and then the animal that he bought from Avodah Zarah that you shouldn't have bought. What's Iker? Hamanasha parsoseha. You go ahead and disconnect the tendon min akuva lamata from the akuva bone and below. It's a place where you want to make him into a treifa. Kitani mihas. Nonetheless, we learned. Yaniach, if you're going to put it on, nimsa nene. Lo yaniach, if you don't put it on, nimsa mahana devayd zara kasha on Reish Lakish. Here the kasha guys. Amar Rav Mishashia Bereid Ravidi Kasava Rav Shimon ben Lakish, right? Right. It says Rav Shimon ben Lakish, pligi Rav Shimon pligi Rabbana led Rav Nasan. Vanadami Kirabanan. This whole guys, look at the 3 lines from the top. Meisevei Reb Nasan Omer. This whole brisa is quoting Reb Nasan. I don't hold like the Das Yachid. I hold like the Das Rabbim, who says you would be permitted to go ahead and give money for that Avodah Zarah. Right? In other words, there's another opinion over here. Not just Reb Nasan. There's another opinion, and that other opinion. That other opinion says that you can't, you could go ahead and give money to Avodah Zarah. So in other words, I'm being nichlis into a machlokes Tanayim, but I'm going according to the majority. I'm going to the Chachamim who disagree with Reb Nasan. Reb Nasan is a Das Yachid. That's the way Reish Lakish whole serve. Guys, you good? Reb Yochanan Savar, loy pligi. Now, Rabbi Yochanan has to say that don't argue. You know why? Guys, because he doesn't want to come out according to the Das of a Yachid. Again, the way it's set up is Rabbi Yochanan's pasking like Reb Nasan. He's not going to go against a Rabbim, so it must be that loy pligi, that there is no one who disagrees. Because if there would be, he would be going after the what? The Rabbim. Guys, you with me? Yes, no, maybe. Read the Gemara for loy pligi, meaning there's no one who doesn't hold that you can give hana to Avodah Zarah for loy pligi. For Tanya, if you go to a fair of Avdei Kechavim, for loichim mehem behema, avod, you can buy from them. The loichim mehem, you buy from them behema, avodim. Ushvachos, batim, the sadais ukramim, the koisev, right shtaros, umayla bar koishalahem, and go ahead and verify them and authenticate them and keep them in their courts. Neshu kimasam liyadam. Guys, there you go. You can do it. You're buying. You're giving anah to the Avodah Zarah. You're buying. You're giving anah. Vim hoya kayin mitama mechutz laaretz. If it's a kohen, the kohen is able to go ahead and be metama. Remember, they were guys who are on Eretz Amim because they don't delineate where they go to where they bury. So metama mechutz laaretz ladain to judge ula'ari mahem and handle with them. Ukishem shem metama bechutz laaretz kach metama beis hakvaros. You're able even to go to deal with them. You're able to go into a cemetery. For the Gemara, beis hakvaros al kedaitach. You have a Havamina, you can be able to go into a seminary. That's Freudian. A cemetery? You You have a Havmina, you go out to a cemetery? Come on, right? Tuma deraisahi. Ella b'beis pras the rabbanon. Beis pras, a field. There was what? There was a kever in the field, and you fly over the field and mechayesh for etzim kasayra. Umitama lulmay Torah. He can be mitama the rabbanon to learn Torah, Lisa Isha, and to get married. Rabbi Yehuda, Amasai. Again, it's all in digression. We have the kasha already. Amasai bisman she'ein maitzi lilmoid. When does he able to go? Kohen able to go leave Eretz Yisrael and go? That's but he can't find someone to teach him. Aval bisman shemaitzi lilmoid ain't mitama. He's not able to. Rabbi Yomer, I feel bisman shemaitzi lilmoid yitama. The fish ain't adam soicha lilmoid mikol. Not every person can learn from everybody, right? You need certain people need a certain type of teacher. What? Again, the Eved, but again, he's in the base of process. You're able to go in, and there's blowing your way through. I don't know if it's a heter for a coin. It could be a real regular person. I'm not sure. The guys in Eretz Amim, it's not a foolproof method. Rabbi Yosi, Ma'aseh b'Yosef HaKohen, sheholach acha Rabbi l'tzidayin, l'ulmei Torah. Rabbi Yochanan, halach Rabbi Yosi. So now, when he said halach is like Rabbi Yosi, and it's going on this whole brisa, alma pligi. Since what? Since you're able to buy from them, so he sees you do argue. Guys, let's come up for here. Let's come up for here, guys. Look, guys, let's come up for here. What's the kasha? Let's come up for here. Reish Lakish said that you're able to give a nut to Avodah Zorah. Rabbi Yochanan said you can't give a nut to Avodah Zorah. He asked the kasha from Nassim on Reish Lakish that if you're going to buy, you're going to have to go ahead and destroy it somewhat. He said that's Nassim. He goes according to the Chachamim, and obviously Rabbi Yochanan, who says that you can't give enough of Avodah Zorah, must agree with Rabbi Nassim, and it must be no one argues, because if someone did argue and there was a rabbim, you'd go after the rabbim. I just brought you a brisa that is a rabbim. It says you can go ahead. Again, it doesn't say a name. What does it say? You can go ahead and buy from them. You're giving them anah. So how can you tell me you don't argue? That's the kasha. Back by us. Amalach Rabbi Yochanan, la'olam lei pligi. La'olam, there isn't a machlokes. Meaning, this brisa and Reb Nassim are not arguing. V'loi kasha, kam b'loi keach min hatagar, the shaklei michsa, minei. The Reb Nassim speaking about where you're buying from a what? A merchant that has going to give this tax, the sales tax, whatever it is, he's going to have to give to the Avodah Zorah. Kam b'loi keach min balabayis, the shaklei michsa minei. And the latter brisa that says you could buy, who are you buying from? A balabas. In other words, unter and tissue. Guy's got his place in the basement, right? He's not paying sales tax. You find such a thing. Yeah. So again, says no one argues. You're not allowed to have enough. Guys, the Avodah Zorah is not allowed to have enough. But if you're going to go ahead and buy from a balabas, there's no hana going to what? To the Avodah Zorah. He's not giving any, no, he's not paying any tax, right? And he's not accepting credit card either. So cash only. So Amamar. Okay, now going back. So now we did a brisa, a long-winded brisa. So we finished with the machlokes of Yochanan Reish Lakish. In that long-winded brisa, we said that Reb Nassim, if you do buy something, you have to go ahead and we cancel you. Don't buy an animal, and if you do, we're going to make you go ahead and handicap the animal. Okay, we're going to make you handicap the animal. Amamar, behema to akar. Fred the Gemara over ikat sab alichayim. There's sab alichayim. Rabbi Rachmana esusayim to akar. It says there's susim, you should be akar. Okay, hang on 1 second. I want to get a safer, okay? Thank you, David. David Freeman is giving me the look. Thank you. So, Tzab Alichayim. So, what's his kasha? What's his teretz? Tzab Alichayim, you're destroying the animal. The animal's gonna have trouble walking, right? You're cutting a tendon. It's not going to be fully. It's going to be handicapped. So, it's Tzab Alichayim. What is Rashi's answer? What is the Gemara answer? Esuseim ta'akar. Now this is a pasuk in Yoshua. Says Rashi. Ve'esuseim ta'akar b'Yeshua ksiv. Alma mutta lirdais bekach. You're able to go ahead and lirdais him bekach. You're able to go ahead and subjugate him this way. Freg Tais is a kasha. Okay, says Tais is a kasha. Amar Abaya, Amar Kra, Esuseim ta'akar. Hiksha harav Rav right. Lamanda Amar Tzaba Lechaim Deraisa. My raya, maisi me Yeshua. What raya do you bring from Yeshua? Dil meshani hasam dal piadiba have. In other words, they captured the horses, and you know what Hashem tells him? Go ahead and what? And maim the horses. What raya do you have from there for the rest of the time? Guys, shchutei chutz is asa. Shechting an animal outside is asa. Would you learn from Eliyahu and Har Carmel that you can? Of course not. So just like you learn from Eliyahu, how can you learn from Yeshua? They're both from the Navi. Aval hacha b'kinas rabbanon ein koyach biad chacham l'akadav min haTorah. So l'char it's in rabbanon. The Yishleimar the vada yesh koyach biyadam lakar heicha denir tam kitsas lakar kidmucha perik isha rabba. In other words, gabe masin isha al pi edachat pirish. If the chacham found any reason to do it, you could do it. In other words, Rashi is not the source. It's not the source that Yeshua was able to do it. If there's a reason to do it, then Tzar B'alei Chaim doesn't apply. So it's very interesting. Where's Tzar B'alei Chaim brought down? In Eben Ezra. Hey. Eben Ezra, hey. Yudalit. It's speaking about being Mesares an animal. It's speaking about Mesares, whether we're not allowed to go ahead and castrate an animal. Even a guy is not allowed to castrate an animal according to certain opinions. Right. Now, at the end of the Ramah brings, right, it says the Ramah, now castrating an animal, it's a problem of what Tzar B'alei Chaim. Umiyu meina kuti akoina Mesares ba'atzmai rak noisan l'kuti achad tzai kuli al mishari. Kol dava hat tzarich l'refuah, anything that's necessary for refuah, or l'shar dvarim, or for anything for that matter, les bei mishum isa tzar b'alei chayim. Anything that what? For refuah or shar dvarim, u'lechein muta limroit noitzais me'avaz chayos, you can go ahead and pluck a feather out of a duck or a swan. They used to use the quills for riding. And you're not worried. The Achzari used to do it. So in other words, to go ahead and pluck it out when it's alive, it's Achzarius. But you won't be over Tzar B'alei Chaim. Why? Because I need the quill. That's the Hezbollah and Tosfos, guys. When there's a purpose behind it. You're not just going ahead and cutting the tendon for what? For any reason. You're cutting it because this guy did something wrong. And we're canasing this guy. So why are we canasing him? So future people will learn if you're going to buy a horse or some animal, you're not going to get full uses of it because the Chacham are going to go ahead and maim the animal. Ayat Tzar B'alei Chaim, b'makom there's a necessity. Tzar B'alei Chaim is not a problem. Okay, Eben Ezra, Perik Hey, Siman Hey, Sif Yud Daled in the Ramah over there. Amamar. Again, going back over the Brisa, Amamar, Veizer Iker, Menashe Persosel Minakuvu Lamata. In other words, you cut it over there, and it's a place that won't make it a treifa. Urimini, I'll ask you a stira. Ei Makdishin, Bisman Azeh, you don't make something Kodesh. Vei Machrimim, you don't put something in Chayrim. Chayrim over here does not mean Nidoi. So you say something, it's a neder of Chayrim, Machloikis with Stam Chayrim Lebedek Abayas, or Stam Chayrim, you give me a gift to the Kahanim. We paskin in this case Lebedek Abayas. Man, you don't got to worry, man. You're not losing out, man. You know what you're getting. You're getting the conscientious objector. The ema richin bisman hazeh. You don't make a lashon of erech bisman hazeh. Why? Because all these cases you're going to be able to gehakt tzaris. What are you going to do? It's going to be chal the kedusha, and you won't be able. What are you going to do with it? Okay, we don't have a base on Mikdash. What are you going to do with all these things? And so Rashi says, machrimin ksava stam charam lebedek abayis the pluk he be'erchin v'kivin the hash the leka beis hamigdash asi behu lidek takoli. You'll come to a bad thing. The mishani me hegdish u'meila, and you'll be mild by hegdish. V'im higdish, if you do hegdish, bisman hazeh v'hichrim or yemachrim v'herich behema, if it's an animal to ocker, right? You oiker the animal, peris ksus v'kelim amid beis, your kavu, you let them rat. The klimatachos, mois klimatachos lo yerlichim liyam melach. You go ahead, what, and bring them to the yam melach. The eza ikar, here's your stira. The eza ikar, noel delis bifanecha. You close the door in front of it and it dies. So what do you see? Ikar is not cutting what? Not cutting the tendon. Ikar is what? Is letting it die. Is letting it die, starving it to death. So that's your stira. Amar Abayas is Abayas shiny hasam. It's different over there by what? By hegdish. It's different by hegdish rather than by avodah zarah, by a kanasa avodah zarah. Mishum bezoyin kotchim. To go ahead and physically maim the animal, it's a bezoyin. Rashi. The amit to ocker ain't a mesa meher. It's not going to die quickly. And near bizyoinel is ma meruba, right? So I would have thought without Rashi, you're physically doing something to the animal. If you go ahead, shove al taisi, you'll starve the animal to death. But Rashi, obviously, I'm wrong. Says Rashi. Rashi says it's a bizoyin for hegdish that what? That it's going to go ahead and die a slow death. Mashenkin, if you close the door and starve it, it'll die pretty quickly. So it's a bizoyin for hegdish to suffer. That's Abayas teretz. Fred the Gemara, if you're worried about slow deaths, I got a better answer. V'nishchatei mishchat. Shecht it. It's going to die. Don't eat it. That'll be quicker than starving it to death. As the Gemara, you'll shecht it and you'll think, oh, you could eat it. Fred the Gemara, so kill it. Ulashave gistara. Go ahead and chop it in half. In other words, kill it. So Amabaya, Amakra, v'nitatztem es mizbechaysam. You should go ahead and break them mizbechos. And loisasu kein Hashem elokeichem. It's us to destroy something. What? It's mikadosh Hashem. It's us to destroy it. So therefore, you don't have the option. What of? Okay. So therefore, what do? So what's a stira? Maiming the animal by cutting its tendon or starving it. Big difference. Animal kanasa by the Zorah, maim it. Hegdish, we're going to treat it as starving. Rav Amar. By going ahead and cutting it, it's like you're putting a mum in kachim. I guess similar to what I was saying, right? That a physical action. Nera mum al you. What do you mean? It appears if you're putting a mum. A mum. This is a huge mum. If the animal is not going to be able to walk well, so no. Hani mili bisman shebeis hamikdash kayim. The chazi lehakrava. You know when's this a mum by being mak of the animal? That's when you could bring it as a carbon. But hashtud lechazi lakrava. But now that you can't bring it as a carbon because it's speaking shlebis manabayis, less lamba. Then there's not a problem of making a mum. Now, if an animal has a mum, you can't put a mum in the animal. Let's say to bloodlet a bachar, to let it live, you can't do it because you can put a mum in a mum. You can't do that. The afagav lechazi lakrava asa. So in other words, just like a balmum, you can't put a mum in it. So and now a balmum can be a carbon, and nonetheless you can make a mum. So too over here, it can't be a carbon. Why? Because it's shlebis bias. But you should not be able to go ahead and make a mum in that. You should not be able to make a mum in that. Says the Gemara, balmum nihid lechazi lekufei ledemei chazi. The balmum, good, you can't bring it as a carbon, but for its worth, it has kodesh, and therefore, since it has value, you can't go ahead and make a mum in it. It's nothing over here. It's a kanas, right? And therefore, there's no problem making cutting its leg. Right? Rabbi Yoina found Rabbi Eloi. The koya pischa de Tzur. He was by the city of Tzur, and he was by the opening of the city. And Amalei and Rabbi Yoina said to Rabbi Eloi, "Kitani behemet ta'akar." You just learned if a person buys an animal, we cancel him that he shouldn't have bought it. We cancel him again. He bought it from a tiger who's going to give his money to Avodah Zarah. So we cancel him. Eved Mai. Let's say he buys an Eved. So he shouldn't be buying an Eved. He's going to buy an Eved. What's the din? Do you physically maim the Eved or not? Eved Yisrael can be boile. If it's a Jewish Eved, there's no question. Ki can be boile. Eved Avid Kachapim Anakum. Mai. What's the din? So by a Jew, certainly you would not be able to. But a Goyish Eved, maybe what you would be able to. Amalei. So Rebbe Loi said to Rebbe Yoina, "My komi boilach." Tanya oivit kichavim baroy behem vadaka. Oivit kicham and roy behem vadaka stamas a goslin that he grazes on other people's fields. Loi marlin, you don't put them down in the pit. V'loy maridin, but you don't bring them up. Right? You don't bring them up from the pit. V'loy maridin, you don't put them down in the pit. Now, when it says you don't put them down in the pit, obviously you don't have a chus to physically harm them. So therefore, here as well, even if it's a goyish eved, you don't have right to. Amr Rav Yomi Rav Zorah, Kitani, loichem mehem behema avodah mishvachos, eved Yisrael, idil mafvida eved avdi kachavim. Amr mistabe eved Yisrael, the eved avdi kachavim, l'may mi boile. What does he need him for? Kios Rav and Amr Rav Shimon ben Lakish, afilu eved avdi kachavim. If they shemachnisim tachas kampi hashchina, Taisus points out he's going to be mechuyev Mrs. Kisha. Amr Vashi at the behema my machnas tachas kampi hashchina by buying the behema. So don't buy the behemoth, don't buy the eved. The reason why you could buy the reason you can buy the eved from the guy from the akum, the goyish eved is my tayu. You're going to go ahead and diminish his. I'm saying he won't have someone to work for him. You won't have someone to work for him, so you'll be mad at him. So here too. To go ahead. In other words, by buying an animal that's not going to be able to work from him, you buy it from his resources, as she says. So too, by buying the eved, you buy from him. And this Geshmak Pshan Rashi, guys. What did Rashi say? What are you able to do? You're able to buy from him. Why? Because they're going to be upset because they don't want to sell it. So obviously, the guy has to sell his eved. And he has to sell his animal. Obviously, he's down on his luck. So therefore, you're able to buy from him, so he's not going to be happy. So that's the Ritva says, based upon this Gemara, that's the husband Rashi that we began to share with. Guys, you hear? We began to share with Shitas Rashi. What was Shitas Rashi? You can go to them and buy from them. Why can you buy from them? Because they're going to be unhappy. Now, it's very geschmack. This is great hezbah. You know why they're going to be unhappy? Because they need the money. But they don't want to sell. Rashi, what does the Gemara say over here? You know why you buy the animal, the eved? You've been mine from them. You're taking away from their possessions. So it's very geschmack. This Gemara is a beautiful hesber on Shitas Rashi. Guys, you good? Beautiful. Weiter. Another. Rav Yaakov Zovin Sandola. Rav Yaakov, he bought a sandal from a guy. Rav Yirmiyah Zovin Pita. This is what Taisus put down. Now you see Pita is a Babylonian bread. Here's your source of Pita, right? Rav Yirmiyah Zovin Pita. He bought a piece of bread, which is Davar Shenish from Miskayan, still why he bought it. So Amalei Chad L'Chavrei, Yasma means literally a Yasam, but it means bli das, without das. Avid Rabcha Hachi, what would you miss to say about this? Amalei Idach, the other one said to the other one, Yasma, Avid Rabcha Hachi. Now, why be each one giving them Musa? The Chavayim in Balabayas Oven. They both bought from the Balabayas, which he said is okay, because the Balabayas, they're not going to give their money to the Avodah Zorah. So that's okay. However, why did they hold? They thought they bought it from the merchant who would give to the Avodah Zorah. In other words, they mistakenly they thought the other one, but each one in fact was up and up because they bought it from the Balabas. Damer of Abba, Breder of Chia bar Abba, Loishanu, that what you can't buy, El Bakech Menataga, the Shachli Michsa Mine, they're going to take what the tax from him for the Avodah Zorah. Abba Lekeach, the Balabayas. They don't take a tax from him to be permitted. However, there's another opinion. Amr of Abba, buried of Chia bar Abba, El Moli Hoy Reb Yochanan Hazimna Ba'asra, the Koshokal Nichsa. If Reb Yochanan was still alive and it was a place that they took meches, Afilu mi Balabayas Havi Asa. He would have said even from a Balabayas you couldn't buy. El Inu. So therefore, how could these people have bought? El Hechi Zavin. How could Rav Yirmiyah and Rav Yaakov bought? Says the Gemara, Zavim Balabayas, they bought from Balabayas, she'ena kivua zavin. In other words, if it's a balabayas that's set in that spot, so they're going to take a piece of the action. But a guy that they don't know, and that's they bought from a guy what they didn't know. Very good.